I never believed in urban legends, not really. My name's Henry. I'm 29 now, but when it happened, really happened, I was 17, a junior in high school. Back then, I thought ghost stories were just for fun. Horror movies, spooky sleepovers, all harmless. Until the night just dared me to say her name. Ngoc. That name's still hard for me to say. Even now, writing this, saying it feels like calling her again. Like cracking the surface of the glass world she lives in. It was October, cold and quiet. We were at Jess's house, just 3 of us. Me, Jess, and Liam. A Friday night sleepover. We watched a couple horror films, then Jess brought up Vietnamese urban legends. Said she'd read them on Reddit in some hidden thread where people warned others not to try them. She told us about a girl. Some say her real name was Lo. Others claim no one ever knew. She was called Ngoc, which roughly means mirror jade in Vietnamese. There are lots of versions of her story, but they all end the same way, with someone dying in front of a mirror, eyes missing, and her name carved into glass. If you say it 3 times, in total darkness at 3 a.m., Jess said, you'll see her behind you in the mirror. But she's not a ghost, she's a memory. Of pain, Liam scoffed. Yeah, okay. And Bloody Mary sends text messages now. Jess rolled her eyes. This one's worse. And then the dare came. Let's try it tonight. I should have said no, but I was 17 and I wanted to prove I wasn't scared. At 2:55 a.m., we crowded into the bathroom with a single candle. Jess had turned off the power at the breaker, said it had to be pure dark. It was cold in there, strangely cold, like the bathroom didn't belong to the house anymore. We stood in front of the mirror, and I laughed nervously. Okay, on 3, Jess counted. We chanted, Ngoc Guang, Ngoc Guang, Ngoc Guang. Nothing. Silence. Then a creak. The candle flickered, and in the mirror, I swear to God, there was another face, behind us, not fully clear, like fog on glass. But it was there, long black hair, head tilted slightly, eyes like empty wells. Liam screamed and knocked the candle over. We all ran out, heart pounding. Jess laughed it off. It's just a trick of the light. But I knew better. Something had looked back. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face behind mine in the mirror. Not just behind me, inside me, like I had brought her with me somehow. I tried to rationalize it, sleep deprivation, shadows. But then, my bathroom mirror fogged up on its own, even when I hadn't taken a shower, and written in the fog, finger-drawn, were the words, "You saw me." The next, what happened to Jess, still doesn't feel real. But it was real. She didn't come to school on Monday. Her mom found her in their bathroom. Her eyes were missing. Blood everywhere. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. Nothing. But on the mirror, someone had scratched 2 words into the glass, deep and jagged. She saw. That's when I knew it wasn't over, that I had brought something back with me. Maybe I was next. The morning after Jess was found, I skipped school. I stayed in my room, blinds drawn, phone off. The air was heavy, like something was watching me even when I was alone. Especially when I was alone. I didn't tell anyone what we did, not even the police. How could I? Hi, officer. My best friend died because we summoned a Vietnamese mirror ghost at 3 a.m. They'd locked me in a padded room. But the guilt and fear were like a scream behind my eyes. I couldn't shake it. I kept replaying that night. The cold, the face. The moment when the candle flickered and we all saw something behind us, something that shouldn't have been there. Was it my fault? I kept asking myself that, and the mirror kept answering. 3 days after Jess's funeral, I saw the message again. This time, it wasn't fog. It was written in condensation. While I was brushing my teeth. I'm not done. My toothbrush clattered into the sink. I turned to the door. Locked. I spun back. The words had faded, but I swear they were there. That night, I took every mirror out of my room, even the tiny one in my makeup compact. I stuffed them in a box and threw them in the garage, but I forgot one, the glass of my phone screen. At 3:11 a.m., it lit up. No caller ID, just the words, unknown. I hesitated, then answered. Silence, then static, then breathing, and then a voice, dry, hollow, a girl's whisper. Why do you call me? I threw the phone across the room. It didn't break, but the screen stayed lit, pulsing like a heartbeat. And in the reflection of the black screen, for just a second, I saw her again. Hair matted, skin gray, and eyes like mirrors. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. By the end of the week, my hands were shaking constantly. I was paranoid. Mirrors seemed to breathe around me. Store windows, car rear views, even puddles. I started seeing things move in them that weren't in the real world. One morning, I looked at my bathroom mirror and my reflection blinked a second after I did. Just a second. Just late enough to know it wasn't me anymore. Then Liam went missing. He was supposed to meet me at the school library to talk, to confess, he said. Said he had dreams of her. Said she was getting closer, but he never showed up. They found his car in a parking garage 2 towns over. The windshield cracked in a spider web. The driver's seat soaked in blood, but no body. On the cracked glass, a message scratched from the inside. She knows. I started researching everything I could about Ngoc Guang. There wasn't much, just a few scattered posts in Vietnamese forums, a deleted blog from 2014. Most said the legend was fake, but I found one thread deep in a forum archive titled, She's Real, I Survived. It was written by someone calling themselves Latran_89. They told the exact same story. Say her name 3 times at 3 a.m. See her, then she follows you. But this person had something else to say. She's not a ghost. She's a record, a replay, a curse made of pain. She was a real girl once, killed in front of a mirror by someone she trusted. That line hit me like a knife. Killed in front of a mirror by someone she trusted. A girl trapped in her last moment, and now she makes others feel what she felt. It's been weeks now. I've tried to stay in sunlight. I avoid my reflection. I leave the TV on at night just so I'm not alone with the silence. But last night something new happened. My mirror cracked. I didn't touch it, didn't bump it. I just walked past, and a hairline crack sliced through the center. And behind the crack, for the first time, she smiled, not kindly, not like a person, like something remembering how to hurt, and her mouth moved. I couldn't hear her, but I could read her lips. She said, "You're almost ready." To stop her, I had to know her real name. But names have power, and some doors, once opened, stay open forever. I couldn't keep living like that, afraid of mirrors, of phone screens, of my own reflection, sleep-deprived, jumpy, slipping into paranoia. Something had to give, so I went back to the thread, to the user Latran89, the one who claimed to survive her. Their account had been inactive for years, but the post was still there. I read and reread every word, every hidden clue, looking for something I might have missed. And then I saw it, a line buried in the middle of the post, in Vietnamese. She once had a real name, but only those brave enough to remember can call it out. It wasn't a riddle, it was a warning. The next day, I contacted a girl from my school, Mai, whose family had emigrated from Vietnam. I didn't tell her everything, just that I was working on a research project about Southeast Asian folklore. She agreed to help. I showed her the post. She read it quietly, lips pressed tight. "You shouldn't be reading this," she said. "Why?" "Because in Vietnam, some people believe names hold spirits. Say the right name, and the wrong thing answers." I told her I needed to know anyway. She was hesitant, but finally she told me something no website had. There was once a girl named Ngoc, a schoolgirl in 1990s Hanoi, who was found dead in a school bathroom mirror. They said her best friend betrayed her, set her up, locked the door, and left. Le was attacked violently, her screams muffled, and when they found her, her blood was smeared on the mirror, as if she had tried to write something, but never finished. She was never given a proper funeral. Her family moved away. Her name faded from records, but kids started whispering. They said her ghost stayed behind, not in the school, in the mirror, waiting to be seen. I knew that was her, Ngoc Guang, not just a nickname, a cursed distortion of her real name, Ngoc. Was that why she was angry? Because no one remembered? Because even her name had been twisted by time? That night, I sat in front of a mirror for the first time since Jess died. My hands shook, but I didn't say the cursed version. I whispered, "Ngoc." The mirror stayed still. "I know what they did to you." The air grew colder, my breath fogged, the lights flickered. I kept going. "I'm sorry they forgot your name. I'm sorry you died alone." Then the mirror cracked, thin as a spider web, and behind my reflection, and not next to it, not mimicking it, hers appeared. She was right behind me, still, face pale as ash, eyes black and bleeding, but her mouth wasn't snarling, it was trembling, like she remembered. And then she whispered, not aloud, but into my mind, "Help me remember." The next few days were strange. She stopped appearing in mirrors. My phone stopped ringing at 3 a.m. The voices, the breathing, they were gone. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. But I knew it wouldn't last. Because memory is fragile, and pain, left unhealed, doesn't disappear, it festers. I went back to the school where she died. It had been renovated years ago. The bathroom tiled over, new lights installed. But when I stepped in, something in the air shifted. Old pain clings to places like mold. I went into the last stall, and there it was. A crack in the wall tile, just faint, like a hairline fracture that no one had bothered to fix. I pressed my palm to it. Cold shot up my arm, and behind my eyelids, images flashed. A girl screaming, hands over her mouth, blood on the floor. A mirror, fogged and red, and a name, almost spoken, but drowned in silence, Ngoc. I dropped to my knees and whispered, "I see you, I know you, I won't forget." And for the first time, the room felt warm, like the echo of someone smiling through tears. I thought that might be the end, but I was wrong, because she wasn't the only one watching. After I left the school that day, things started changing. At first, it was subtle. Headlines in Vietnamese forums, obituaries buried in local news sites. Teacher found dead in Hanoi apartment, mirror shattered. Former student commits suicide, body discovered near abandoned school. Each victim connected. They had all been at Tran Phu High School in the late 1990s, and all of them were there the night Ngoc died. One of them had been a teacher, another a prefect, a girl who was best friends with the one who locked the door. None of them had laid a hand on her, but they heard her scream, and they did nothing. Now they die, and each death followed the same pattern: a broken mirror, a smear of blood, a melody scratched into glass, the same lullaby her mother used to sing to her before school, according to a comment someone had once left on an old forum. Sleep well, my little girl. The wind will carry dreams to you. I realized something chilling. She wasn't just punishing those who hurt her. She was punishing the ones who let her be hurt. The nightmares returned, but now they weren't just mine. Mai, the girl who had helped me, started texting me in the middle of the night. I saw her in the window. She was crying, but it was like she was looking me. She whispered something. I think it was a name. Mine. I called her. She was terrified. Why would she come after me? I never did anything. That was the point. We were reliving the pattern, just in different roles. Mai had helped me, yes, but when she sensed danger, she stepped back, like so many others before her. It was enough. Ngoc didn't need blood to be spilled. She just needed to be abandoned again. I begged Mai to come stay at my place, but when I got to her house, the door was unlocked. Inside, the walls were covered in writing, in blood. NGU Jai. Sleep now. Mai was gone. All that remained was her phone. Screen cracked, frozen on the camera app. A selfie, taken in front of her mirror. And standing behind her, half faded into the shadow. Ngoc. I thought I'd reached the end of the nightmare. But there was still one more person left to face her. The girl who had locked the bathroom door all those years ago. Her name was Thuy An, and she had moved to the US under a new identity. I tracked her down through old school yearbooks and immigration records. She ran a Vietnamese nail salon in Houston. It took everything I had to book the flight, find her salon, and wait until she was alone in the back room. When I confronted her, she didn't deny anything. She just broke down. I was jealous, she whispered. She was pretty, smart. Everyone liked her. And I thought, if I humiliated her, people would finally notice me. Tears streamed down her face. But I didn't know they would hurt her. I didn't know. I showed her the photos, the headlines, and then I asked her the only thing that mattered. Do you remember her name? She sobbed. Yes, Ngoc. I asked her to come with me, to return to Vietnam, to the school, to face what she did, because I realized something. Maybe the curse wasn't just about revenge. Maybe it was a cry for truth, for someone, anyone, to say her name and not look away. She agreed. We booked the flight. We landed on a cold, rainy night, like the one when Ngoc died. And when we stepped into the school bathroom together, the lights blew out, the air went cold, and the mirrors shattered all at once. From the shards, she appeared, bleeding, weeping, waiting. Thuy An dropped to her knees and said it, Ngoc, I'm sorry. I was a coward. I took your voice, your life, your name. But I remember. And in that moment, the blood on the floor faded. The humming stopped. The shattered glass stilled. And for the first time, Ngoc smiled. That night, the atmosphere in the old bathroom changed. The oppressive air lifted. The cracked tiles looked cleaner. And for the first time, the mirror didn't reflect something twisted. It reflected only us. I wanted to believe it was over, that Ngoc had found peace. But trauma doesn't vanish just because the truth is spoken. Ghosts don't disappear with apologies. They linger, and sometimes they're not alone. Back at my apartment, I tried to rest. I hadn't slept in days. My phone was off, curtains closed, doors locked, and yet at 3:03 a.m., I woke to the sound of humming. That lullaby again, soft, sorrowful, like it came from under the floorboards. I got up, my feet touched the cold tiles, the light in the hallway flickered, and a whisper. She wasn't the only one. I turned, saw a figure, but it wasn't Ngoc. It was a man, mid-30s, pale skin, sunken eyes, his mouth opened, but instead of words, water poured out. His face twisted in silent agony before vanishing into the shadows. I did more research. It turns out that Tran Phu High School didn't just have one tragedy. It had many. A string of accidents swept under the rug over the years. One student who drowned in a school basin. Another who jumped off the roof. A teacher who hung herself in the storage room. No connections were ever made publicly, but when I went back through old forums and whisper pages from the early 2000s, the same phrases appeared again and again. The school is cursed. Don't stay after dark. There's something under the third floor. She watches, but so do they. That last one made my stomach drop. I had focused so much on her and Ngoc's story that I missed the bigger picture. She wasn't the curse. She was one victim of something older, deeper, and far more dangerous. I went back to the school, this time during the day. I brought incense, offerings, and printed every photograph I had of Ngoc. I placed them near the bathroom door, said her name out loud, and bowed 3 times. Then I lit a red candle and let it burn for exactly 13 minutes. A tradition I'd read about in a thread warning people not to enter cursed locations without acknowledgement. When I looked up, the hallway had changed. There were no footsteps, no breeze, no sound. The walls bled moisture. The air smelled of old pond water and incense smoke. And then I saw it, a trapdoor behind the janitor's closet, hidden beneath an old mop and moldy boxes. I pulled it open. A rusted ladder led down into darkness. I don't know what pushed me to climb down. Curiosity, stupidity, or the feeling that I'd come this far out and I needed to know. The air was thick, heavy. I could barely breathe. I turned on my flashlight. What I saw at the bottom wasn't a basement, it was a room, an underground chamber with tiled walls and a drain in the center. On the walls, symbols, faded prayers, and handprints in dried blood. And in the center, a broken school desk, a name etched into the wood in deep, desperate scratches, LN. It was her desk, the one that went missing after she died. I reached out to touch it, and suddenly my light flickered off. Pitch black. Then water, rising fast, freezing cold, up to my knees. A voice whispered in my ear, gurgling like speaking through drowning lungs. You saw her, but what about us? We died too, and no one said our names. I screamed, but the water didn't stop. and then just before it reached my chest, a pale hand reached from below, pulled me back toward the ladder, back to air, back to the surface. I awoke in the nurse's room, alone. No water, no signs of the chamber. Just my soaked clothes, and in my hand, a slip of paper. On it, 4 names. Names I didn't recognize, but when I searched them, each belonged to a student who had died mysteriously at the school over the last 40 years, and none had ever been memorialized. They weren't mentioned in school records, no shrines, no photos. They had been erased. That night, I lit 4 candles in front of my window, spoke each name aloud, and waited. At 3:03 a.m., they came, not to haunt, but to stand in silence, to be seen, to be remembered, and behind them, Ngoc. She wasn't crying anymore. She was watching, calm, almost proud, and before fading into the dark, she mouthed a single word: "Thank you." After that night, everything changed. I couldn't walk through the school without feeling a presence behind me, not menacing, but observant, like the walls were listening. And for the first time, the stories started to spread again. Students whispered about shadows in the mirrors, about footsteps echoing in the halls after curfew, about a girl who smiled gently before disappearing behind the 3rd floor. But no one mocked it anymore. They respected it, because something deeper had shifted. Not just fear, but recognition. I started documenting everything: the underground chamber, the names, the photos I took, and then I uploaded it all to a private website called Whispers of the Forgotten. It was meant to be a digital memorial, a place where stories like Ngoc's wouldn't vanish again. But something strange happened. Emails started coming in from other students, from alumni, from people who once studied at other schools across Vietnam. Each message shared the same theme. There was someone like Ngoc at my school, too. A girl who drowned in the pond behind the canteen. A boy who never came back from cleaning the chemistry lab. A teacher who warned students of the red-eyed thing in the prayer room, and then vanished. They all had names, but those names had been buried like hers. And then one message changed everything. It was from a man who signed only as K. He claimed to be the former janitor at Tran Phu High School, the one who worked there when Ngoc died. His message was simple: "You've stirred something old. You think it was just her, but there's a reason they sealed the chamber, and a reason I quit. Don't let them out." Attached to the email was a photo, black and white, grainy. It showed a group of students from 1982 sitting stiffly in a classroom, and in the corner, just barely visible in the shadows, was a face, twisted, hollow-eyed, watching. Definitely not a student. I printed that photo and brought it to Mr. Thon, the oldest teacher still working at the school. When I showed it to him, he paled. "I was in that class," he whispered. "That's impossible," I said. "You don't look old enough." He looked at me, and his voice dropped. "We don't age normally here. The school keeps its secrets, and sometimes it keeps people too." I laughed nervously, but his eyes didn't. He leaned forward, hands shaking. Then he whispered one final sentence before asking me to leave. They fed her to it, to buy more time. That night, the nightmares returned, not just of Ngoc, but of the thing in the photo. It didn't speak, it just watched. And by every passing hour, it got closer. By 3:03 a.m., it was standing beside my bed. And then I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. Except I wasn't in my room. I was in the bathroom of the school. The same cracked mirror, the same cold tiles, except this time there were voices chanting behind the walls, a deep, guttural rhythm, a language I didn't know. And then the floor cracked open, and from below something rose, a shape, long-limbed, eyeless, skin like water-soaked paper. It wasn't her. It wasn't a ghost. It was the thing they had been feeding, with names, with souls, with forgotten stories. And now it was starving again. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe Ngoc pulled me out. Maybe I was never there physically. But when I woke up, I found scratches on my wall, deep claw marks carved above my desk, and beneath them, a name I had never written. My Lynn. Another forgotten one, another offering. I added her to the memorial site, lit a candle, and waited. But the thing didn't come, and the chanting didn't stop. Now I know the truth. Ngoc wasn't just a girl who died tragically. She was a barrier. Her grief, her rage, her haunting, it kept the real thing trapped. And when I helped her find peace, I accidentally set it free. And it's hungry, not for flesh, but for silence, for secrets. It thrives on stories that were never told, names never spoken. It doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be obeyed. And now it knows my name too. Every time I closed my eyes, the thing in the dark crept closer. That eyeless, sagging figure rising from cracks in the floor, whispering with no mouth. Even when I was awake, it found ways in. Reflections that didn't match my movements. Voices coming from empty lockers. Water running in the school sinks. Red, thick, pulsing. And every night at exactly 3:03 a.m., it tried to drag me back to that underground place beneath the school, the real chamber, the one beneath the one I found. I thought I had reached the bottom when I found Ngoc's memorial, but there was more. There was something deeper. I went back to Mr. Than. He looked worse, pale, hollow. His fingers trembled when he gripped the desk. "You shall leave," he whispered. "I need to know," I said. "What did you mean?" "They fed her to it." He didn't answer, so I showed him the photo again, the shadow in the back of the class. His face twitched. "That was the old custodian," he finally said. "His name, Kong Idam Goy. No one dared speak it after what happened." "What did happen?" His lips tightened. Then he nodded toward a cabinet in the back of the room. "In there," he said. "Bottom drawer, black folder." I opened it. Inside was a thick file marked in red. "Case closed, Class 12A, 1982, and taped to the front, a single yellowed page. "Warning, do not read aloud the list of names enclosed. The sealed door in the furnace room must remain undisturbed, property of the Ministry of Cultural Protection. Violations will not be tolerated." My hand shook as I flipped it open. There were 32 names, all from the same class, all missing, all scratched out in red, except one, Ngoc Lei. She wasn't the first. She was the last. That night, I returned to the furnace room. The door was still sealed, covered in rusty chains and prayer papers, in old Chunam script. But something had clawed at the inside. The concrete was cracked. Something wanted out, and maybe I was already too late. I placed a recorder by the door. When I listened later, I nearly threw my headphones across the room. It didn't pick up voices. It picked up breathing, heavy, wet, close. And then something whispered, "You opened her name. Will you open the rest?" I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I uploaded the full list of names, -1, to my site. I wrote, "If you know someone who went missing at Tran Phu in 1982, please contact me." This isn't a joke. This is a warning. Within hours, the site crashed. Emails poured in, some fake, some threatening, some real. One stood out. From an anonymous source, "You have 6 days. On the 7th, it breaks through. You must finish what Lou started. Find the root, burn it, or they all rise." I had one lead left, the abandoned teacher's records room, buried behind the old music hall. They said no one went there after the fire in 1999, but I found the key, and I went anyway. Inside, the walls were lined with student files, melted and warped by heat, but one file cabinet stood untouched. Drawer labeled "Special Cases, Do Not Destroy." I opened it. Inside were audio tapes, 32 to be exact, each labeled with a name from the redacted list. I played one. A girl's voice, barely audible. "It comes from the mirror. It wears your face, but wrong. Twisted, like wax melting. It tells you to sleep, that the only way out is to give up your name, that if you forget yourself, it will let you go." Then static and screaming. The school had become a ritual site. Every few decades, a class would go missing, names wiped, and no one ever remembered them, except Lee. She refused to disappear. She resisted the forgetting, and that's why she haunted, not for revenge, but to warn, to hold the seal. And when I gave her peace, I broke the chain. Now it's coming. My name is Anne, and I think I'll be the next offering, but I won't go quietly. I'll tell the full story, every name, every secret, before it silences me too. The school knew, the ministry knew, even the town knew. But they all chose silence, because silence was safer than truth. I wasn't supposed to survive this. That's why they let me poke around. That's why no one stopped me. They assumed I'd vanish too, but I didn't, because I remembered. And that made me dangerous. Day 7 came. The seal broke, not with fire, not with violence, but with forgetting. A student accidentally painted over the old prayer markings on the furnace room wall during a renovation project. A careless act, a simple mistake, but it was enough. That night, the school shuddered like something inside it breathed for the first time in decades. The screams returned, not of one voice, but dozens. Children, teens, all from Class 12A, 1982. Their memories flooding back as the seal failed. They didn't just haunt, they howled. I went back one last time, alone. The furnace room door hung open, the chains curled like shed skin on the floor. Inside, a spiral staircase now existed where the floor used to be. Stone, wet, too cold. I descended. With every step, the air thickened as if I was sinking beneath the world. At the bottom was a chamber made of bones, lined with old photographs, twisted mirrors, and desks, the kind you'd find in a classroom from decades ago. And at the center, a seat, facing a wall covered in names, scratched out, rewritten, and scratched out again. There was only one left untouched, Ngoc. I lit the final candle. I whispered every name aloud, one by one, even the ones I couldn't pronounce clearly. And when I finished, something shifted. The wall trembled. The names glowed red, then faded. The bones cracked. And in the chair appeared her, not monstrous, not vengeful, just tired. Lee turned to me, her eyes filled with sorrow, not anger. She placed a cold hand over mine. "You remembered us," she whispered. so we could leave. Then, like dust caught in a beam of sunlight, she disappeared, along with the others. The chamber collapsed behind me, and the stairs were gone. By the time I stumbled out, dawn had broken, and the furnace room, just a normal basement again. No cracks, no marks, clean. The school replaced the door. No one spoke of the night, but I knew, and I never forgot. That experience changed me. I couldn't go back to normal life, not after hearing voices that weren't supposed to exist, not after standing in a room built from forgotten children. So I left. I traveled, from village to city, from country to country, looking for other stories like hers, the ones whispered by old women with cloudy eyes, the ones scribbled in the margins of banned books, the ones too terrifying to be fiction, because they had just enough truth to bleed. I became something else, a collector, a seeker, a chronicler of the unseen. I still dream of Tran Fu School sometimes. In the dreams, I'm always walking the hallway of Class 12A. I see students with no faces, desks with names carved in blood, and at the end of the hall, a mirror, cracked. But in it, I see myself, not as I am, but as I was, before I knew, before I believed, before I remembered. My name is Anne. And if you're reading this, know that this story is real, just like the others I've collected since. And if one day you hear your name whispered from a mirror at 3:03 a.m., don't answer. Not unless you're ready to remember something you were never supposed to know. Some doors should never be opened, but if you do, never walk through alone.